Let's Chat About It is a thought-provoking podcast where your hosts Lenora Sneva and Max Brown engage in meaningful conversations with everyday individuals about the pivotal moments when they realized they were different.
I'd never been out of the country. It was a mess, but I eventually get there. Mind you, I've never heard of Club Med. I've never heard of Club Med, nothing. So I get there, everybody's speaking French. But I'm talking like great French, and so I show up and I show up a day late, so that there's no one to meet me at the airport. I have to find me my own ride and my own way to the resort. And then because they're not expecting me on that day, the security guards didn't want to let me in. So that was a thing to kind of figure out how to get into the resort. Then I got into the resort and they take me to the reception area where they hand out the little drinks to people showing up and stuff like that. And they said, okay, oh yeah, we were expecting you yesterday. Cool. She said, they were like, you really have to meet the chef de village. You have to meet the chef de village.
Is he black?
No. Unfortunately, he was not. And so I arrived around noon, and I arrived at Cancun around noon, and they were like, he's at the top of the stairs in the restaurant, because that's where the chef de village would greet people at the top of the restaurant. Now, chef de village, of course, or not, maybe not of course, but chef de village is French for the chief of village, which is their term for the general manager of the resort, basically.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was a chef.
Okay, I was thinking
You too? Oh, yeah. Me?
It's a black chef that you need to meet, because there's there's two of you.
Village chef. Chef de village, the village chef.
Okay,
I can eat on something. I've been traveling all day. And they're like, all my little logic was like, he's at the top of the stairs in the restaurant, chef de village, village chef, top of the stairs in the restaurant. I got this French thing down. Okay. I was hot garbage for maybe 6 months, because the French chef de village was very, very French. He was Parisian French, and they have a saying in French. It's called deux doigts dans le nez. 2 fingers in the nose means that someone is stuck up because their nose is in the air. So he was very deux doigts dans le nez. He did not like Americans. He didn't want me to be there. He would conduct the staff meetings that we had every week. They were conducted completely in French.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. So like you'd be sitting there like, I'm like 45 minutes, an hour. You're like, And so I remember that first night, just kind of like going back to my room, and I was like, I have made a huge mistake. I made a huge, like I got 2 weeks take home. So I'm not gonna make. But then it was like going back to those feelings when I was like, that I had kind of nurtured this thing from I was in 4th grade, and I was like, I'm not gonna quit. I had a stubbornness about me that said that was just like, this absolutely sucks. I feel like he wants me to quit. I feel like they don't want me here. So I'm going to be here, and I'm going to work. I'm going to work twice as hard as anybody else, because if you ever been to like one of these resorts, all-inclusive resorts, they have shows at night and they'll perform these different shows. Well, the guests, the workers performed the show. I showed up there to water ski, but the person I was replacing, I replaced them in all the shows that they do too.
Oh,
so we were.
Did you break dance for him?
If I could, I would. If there was any break dance,
it was a knee thing back then too.
Yeah, no,
back then his knees were good.
My knees were golden then. But I show up for the Michael Jackson show rehearsal.
Oh, okay.
Now I feel like I'm comfortable here. I was like, okay, Mike Jack, yes. Who do you want me to be, Michael or Jack? I'm gonna either one of them. Is like, no, you're gonna be one of the backup dancers, and so she starts to show the choreographer, because they have a choreographer, and she starts to show, and it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, grapevine left. I'm standing still. Everybody.
In French? Was she singing in French too?
No, she was like, it was like in English. She was American,
okay,
but like, it wouldn't have mattered. She might as well have been doing it in French, I didn't know any of the moves, and they didn't. There was no learning curve. They were not like, hey, look over these moves and then come back tomorrow.
Come
It
on,
was just
all night long.
yeah, it was like baptism by fire. And so, but I did that I did that until like till 2000. And
You go back every summer, or you stayed there?
No, you stay there. So the thing is that it's kind of like the Navy SEALs. Like you stay for 6 months, and then they send you to another
Are you
village.
comparing Club Med to the Navy? I just want to
Navy
that
SEALs.
real quick.
Well, not the Navy, just the Navy SEAls. So, so it's like you kind of deploy to another. You deploy to another beach. You do another tour of duty. Some of us. Where were you? Thank me for my service.
Oh my goodness.
But you would go to another resort.
How long were you there?
I was there for 6 months, and then I went to.
But like cumulative, like when did you start? Like, when was Cancun to 2000?
When was it?
Like how long? How many years altogether?
Oh,
thank you, Kelly, for interpreting.
I'm sorry. That would have been 6 years.
Wow, okay. But not consecutive. Like you would do because weren't you still going to college?
No,
it was after.
Oh, this is after. It was after college.
No, I just said goodbye to college because I was living on the beach.
Oh, you left college. Yeah. You're like, not bad.
So yeah, that was it for me. They never saw me again.
They never what?
They never saw me again on a college campus. Well, online college, yes.
Online college.
But no, I never. I was living it. I was like, college. I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. I'm gonna travel around. I'm gonna water ski. I'm gonna do these.
Compare myself to a Navy SEAL.
Yeah. It wasn't easy, but I managed.
Well, so why? So, and I know this from you, Jay, which is, you were a little bit older when you joined the military.
I was.
So why'd you leave the glamorous life of Club
Dirty
Med?
Dancing? Why'd you leave?
Yeah. Because I left in 2001. I was asked to leave in all transparency.
Okay.
Oh, I need the story on that one real quick. What happened? What'd you do?
Our list, we don't have that big of a list to group yet. You'll be all right.
Well, this is what I can tell you.
Okay.
This is what the NDA says.
Part of your job as a GO, as a Gentil Organizer, that's the name of the employees of Club Med. Part of your job as a GO is to enjoy the guest vacation with them. There's no separation of the employees are over here, the guests are over here.
Oh no.
Everybody's together. So it is a huge, it's a huge party. So with that comes, a lot of shots, a lot of drinking, a lot of stuff like that. A lot of things that young people may indulge in. And so I was reckless. I was out there.
You're having fun.
I was having fun. We had a small group of guys that were, and we were kind of like we were the stars of the village, of the resort where we were, and we hubris got me, and that led me to being asked to leave, and I moved back to Dallas, and I opened a bar and restaurant there in like 2001 and until 2008.
Oh wow.
And then when the housing market crashed, everything dried up, like everything on Main Street, all our clientele, everything was all gone. And so that was 2008. I was 36, and I was like, let me see what I can do about. I was like, I got to do something to pay these, because remember I said bye to student loan, but Sally Mae was like, hey, we still calling you,
right?
Hey, we hear you back on the mainland. What's going on? Where our money at, bro? Where our money at?
Calm down.
Yeah. And so I had to find a way to get them that money. And so I was like, I found that you could join the Army and have your student loans repaid or something like that.
Yeah, forgiven, yeah.
Yeah. So, 36 years old, I came in as
There
a
you go.
private first class, have twice the age of everybody in my
Right?
it was like 18. Like they wanted to like sneak out the barracks and stuff at night. I was like, bro, y'all keep it down.
I gotta go sleep.
I'm trying to sleep
before
with these
we
ice
get
packs on my knees.
before we get to like the last question, I wanted to also just hear a little bit about the nonprofit that
Yeah,
you
you said some good stuff beforehand. You've got it's and I did some I may or may not have done some more sleuthing today, Jay. But
Oh,
so is it your aunt runs a nonprofit? Is that right? Is it your aunt in
my
South
aunt,
Dallas? You want to share
yeah,
a little bit about what they do, and then also some of the you also have a scholarship fund that your family's tied into. You want to share a little bit about that with us?
yeah, I can. So the nonprofit is the Good Samaritan at the Baker Estate. So there's a lot there, but if you go to the bakerestate.org, and if you put it in the show notes or anything like that, you can read about the history of it. But it's a pretty interesting read about the history, kind of the convergence of the Jewish population of Dallas and the African American population of Dallas. Just as a quick just a quick note about historically what the place was. So historically, it was a hospital called the Good Samaritan.
Hmm.
When Dallas women of society, girls of society, if they became great with child outside of wedlock,
Oh.
okay, so that was just, and they were members of society, and so that was just kind of frowned upon. So what they would do is that the girls would be able to go to this hospital before they start to show, and then bring the have the baby, bring the baby to term, and then the baby will be put up for adoption. But here's the rub: the hospital was ran by a woman named Miss Schultz, Martha Schultz, and their thing was is that the girl would come to the hospital, she would write postcards and letters from like, oh, I wish you were here, because the story that the family was telling was that she's studying abroad.
Oh.
And so Miss Schultz would bundle the letters and send them to her family back in Germany. And then every once in a while, they would mail the letters from Europe to the people that the girl had addressed the letters to. So to complete the ruse.
Right.
And so, and then 9 months later, she'd return from studying abroad. The baby would be put up for through adoptive services in Dallas, and no one was the wiser. And so the Schultz family, they ran this Good Samaritan hospital in South Dallas, which at that time was actually an affluent white part of Dallas, and then became an affluent Jewish American part of Dallas. And then as African Americans began to kind of come in, that's when they started bombing houses in the 50s in Dallas. And so they would literally throw pipe bombs on people's porch and bomb the house and like bomb African Americans out of their house. And so there was a string of bombings happening around Dallas. They had caught the guy who was doing them, and my grandmother at that time and her husband, they were like, oh, they put his address in the newspaper. They were like, oh, let's drive by and see his house where the guy was. And so they did that. And it just happened that the house next door to them was the Good Samaritan Hospital, and it was up for sale. And so my grandmother bought it, and they turned it into a boarding house. And she operated it as a boarding house uh, for years. Like, I mean, like all the time, like my aunts and my dad, they all kind of grew up in this big prairie style house there in South Dallas, and I remember just being, I mean, as a grown person going over there with my little frail, I thought, my frail, 80-year-old grandmother, and she just held it down because those streets was rough by that time.
Right.
This is the 2000s. This is 1990. and she'd push those guys off the porch. If anybody was loitering on it, she kept everything nice and clean. They couldn't hang out there. She'd collect that rent money. She'd ball it up into a little thing and put it in a little purse and come out there. And I remember one time being in the passenger seat with it. And here I am thinking I'm like the muscle or something. Now she grew up there. She never had any fear of being over there. Had lived there her whole life. They knew her. And so she never had any problems being over there. But I remember being in the passenger seat one time, and so she got her money. She came out, and there was some young fellas there, some ne'er-do-wells hanging out on the porch. And she just said, if you didn't pay rent, you did not hang out at the house. And so she told them to get off her porch. And they said something that kind of blew off. And obviously they were new to the neighborhood,
right?
Because they
You
didn't
don't know who you're talking to.
Man, hey, look, I'm talking about before I knew it. She come out of her purse with this gold handgun revolver. And she's like, "You got one more time?" And it's like across my chest. I'm like, "Oh my God."
Oh my God.
Oh man, I was just like, then after that, I was like, "Hey, you good, fam? You you do not need me riding shotgun, especially with no shotgun." I mean, Granny had it. And so she lived to the ripe old age of 85, and
Wow.
And she's missed. And so my aunt, who lives in the house to this day, she carried on the legacy. They're really trying to raise the funds to kind of rebuild and restore the house. It's a historical landmark now, so they can't do it. They tried to eminent domain. They stood up to all this stuff. The city doing surprise inspections on the house and stuff like that for the roof or for building inspections. Now, here's the thing: my grandmother operated the first Black daycare out of that house.
Yep.
Yeah, Mason's Lullaby. That's what Mason is named after.
Yeah, that's what I read the story. I'm like, that's okay. That's why Mason's Mason.
Yeah, and so Mason's Lullaby was the first Black daycare in Dallas, and my grandmother operated. And when she went to go get the license for a daycare, they thought that she was trying to get a liquor license or a beer license, because that was the only thing that Black people ever asked for from the city, was because they were going to open a juke joint or something like that. And so she was like, "No, I want a license to open a daycare," and so she ended up getting it, and so the people around it, like she had raised a lot of these kids. Their mothers, and so the mothers knew my grandmother, and then their kids went on to be, to do whatever, but they're the people that are working for the city. And so they would come to my grandmother and be like, "Miss Baker," because these are like people that work at the fire department, they work downtown, they work at the building inspection offices. They would tip my grandmother off a week or 2 weeks before the surprise inspection.
Yeah.
Miss Baker, I just wanted to tell you, the city coming down here to try to inspect your roof. Now, here's the things that you need to do. Just patch those shingles up there, and boom, boom, da da da. And they would tell her the things that they need to do to, ahead of time. She'd get them done. They come down there, they'd be absolutely flabbergasted, and they have to get on about their business. And so she operated a thing. So now we have the nonprofit that my aunt operates from there, and we have a scholarship that's named for my father. It's the James Lynn Baker the second coffee bean scholarship. And I don't know how deep you got in your sleuthing, Max.
I did.
Yeah, that's a deep story, man.
It sounds like that's a whole nother. Yeah, we'll have that conversation before we bring it back to the podcast.
Yeah, that's a deep cut, but it's Damon West, who's a motivational speaker who popularized the coffee bean message. Is he actually was just texting me a little while ago about some other things, but he has a history, and so again, it's very deep. But he wanted to do something to honor my dad. So he was like, "Hey, I want to fund a scholarship on your dad's behalf. Every year, I'm going to send this money to the nonprofit. You guys decide what you want to do with it." And so how you want to honor him. So we built the scholarship for it. And we just, a week ago, we just awarded it to our second ever recipient. It goes to high school seniors in the Dallas area, first generation college students, low income, who have aspirations to go to college. And it's been, we had 752 applications this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
This year too.
Year too, yeah. So,
That's
but
pretty
it's
cool.
a pretty interesting story. But so that's my dad. Also from that same house in that same place, my two aunts came out of, and my one aunt who lives there now was just texting with Kelli right before the podcast. But they were the first two Black Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders on the first.
Wow.
On the first. My one aunt Vonceil, she was on the first squad when it was only like 5 cheerleaders. And she's the first person to ever wear the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader uniform as you know it today. I'm talking about go-go boots, the halter top, the go-go shorts, because she showed up early because she was scared to be late on the day that they were having their fitting. She showed up to the place where they were the person that had made the outfits, the costumes. She showed up there like 3 hours early because she didn't want to be late. And so they were like, okay, well, hon, if you already here, you might as well go and put it on.
Yeah.
So she was the first person to ever wear it.
Wow.
Oh, that's so cool.
And this doesn't go anywhere, to be honest, but she's probably the only one that actually still has her uniform, because now the girls can't keep them.
Give it back. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So we kind of, and then Vanessa, my other aunt who lives at the house and manages the nonprofit, she followed in her in that same pathway, maybe a year or so later. But if you know anything about I'm talking about Dallas Cowboys, Roger Staubach, 70s, being on the Love Boat, doing USO tours, America's team, Dallas Cowboys, and so
The heyday.
and being there in Dallas again, they were just my aunts. I didn't really I got it, but I didn't really get it because they were just people that we saw all the time. But I was like, thought it was always weird because my like teachers in 3rd grade would be asking for pictures of my aunt and like, you think you can have your aunts autograph this calendar for me? And I'm like, what? He's like, bro, that's weird. Like, in like 3rd grade, I'm like, yeah.
That's so funny.
Okay, Miss Griffin. I think I'll see what I can do. But yeah, so that's them. But
that's the extended Bakers in Dallas.
That's pretty
yeah. And so that's kind of what I married this one into. And so that's going to probably be something that house is kind of a and it was built, it was preserved, it always had a very it was a source of empowerment for women. For my grandmother, for my mother, for Miss Schultz, even for the girls that came through there throughout those years, it always was something like that. And so in that vein, we have always just kind of made a silent agreement that it always goes to a female baker. And so my sister's the next one, and then Kelli, my daughter, is the one after that. So that's just kind of how that's gonna
work.
Down.
That's awesome. Well, Jei and Kelli, as we kind of reflect on our conversation today, and you think back to that moment you knew you were different, when you were at the pool party, when you're moving to the integrated school, what would you go back and tell your younger self today?
Well, I would say, like, find out who you are and walk confidently in that.
Simple.
You know me, man. Live, love, laugh.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I think I'm gonna put it on a plank of wood and hang it on my wall.
Maybe. Or with your cricket. I don't know.
I would never catch on.
I think you got something there.
No, man, I'll tell you, if I had to kind of go back and tell myself, I don't know. That's tough. That's tough, guys. That's tough. Max, that's a tough one. You know why? Because when you think back on that stuff, you're like, oh, I would say study harder. I would say do this or not do that. But those things that I did that I made a mistake in doing, they kind of wove the tapestry of the person I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of those mistakes and part of those things, that's just kind of, that's I don't know if I would be who I am or be with who I'm with if I hadn't kind of gone through some of those things. But I guess if I had to tell myself something, it would probably be to, I don't know, I probably would have procrastinated less and worked harder at some of the things that I went out to do. I was always okay with, I was smart, but I didn't really care about being smart unless someone thought I wasn't smart.
And then
And
you
then I
wanted to
had
prove
to,
them wrong. Yeah.
then I had to outsmart you, and I had to get a better grade than you. But if it was never that impetus to, I was okay, just like B's and C's, if it meant that I didn't have to start my 6-month project until the night before. I'm gonna do this whole thing. You guys been working on it for 6 months. I'm starting on it at 8:00 at night the night before.
Gotta work about breakdance moves.
Yeah, breaking out my World Book Encyclopedia is like, all right, let's learn about Abraham. Hey, Abraham Lincoln. Okay, he seems like an interesting fellow. 15 pages later. So,
oh man, that's awesome.
That's fine. I probably work a little bit harder, try a little bit more. I blew a lot of opportunities, man. I blew a lot of opportunities. I was at school on a full ride scholarship, blew it.
For sports or academics?
Yeah, it was definitely academics. Lenora, I don't know if you're getting this. I was a nerd.
Okay.
I wasn't good at sports.
Okay. You were a nerd who
water
break
ski
danced on his
and
knee.
water ski.
I was a fantastic break dancer, and I was a skilled water skier.
Who spoke French?
If you threw the rock to me at the top of the key, you probably would have broke my glasses. But just kidding. I didn't wear glasses until I joined the Army, and then apparently they found out that I could not see.
Oh.
In basic training, they were like, "How long have your eyes been like this?" I don't know. What's today? Yeah, 36 years, I guess.
36 years. I'm alive.
Yeah, you're gonna get in that line over there. Oh, you show me again. But no, I blew a lot of opportunities, but I guess it all led to this.
Yeah.
Right here.
To this, this is the pinnacle of your life at this point.
Who knows who you would have been interviewing tonight had I not done some of the things that I'd done.
Yeah.
I didn't do. What would that even look like?
Oh my gosh. Well, Jay, Kelli, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate getting to know a little bit more of your story, and maybe we'll have to go into some of these deeper cuts at some point, because I did my research. So there's more.
So I know. So you're aware.
Yeah.
And was it something I would have been ashamed about as growing up? Yes, because I was living it in real time. Now it's whatever, man. I was just like, hey, guess what, guys? My dad was a seasoned criminal, and So sorry.
So on that note, we'll wait for part 2.
All right.
Part 3.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much,
Bakers. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
That was my first guests, so I'm glad that I finally got. I feel like I finally
26 episodes in.
I finally added value.
No.
Yeah, that's Jay and Kelli. And honestly, a lot of that, like, I've had a lot of good conversations with Jay, getting to know him and his story, but almost, I think everything that he talked about today was new for me. A couple of the things about growing up in high school, he shared with me a little bit. I knew, his military background, but like learning about his nonprofit and a little bit more of his history in Dallas was, it's news to me. So it was fun to hear more of his story. And I've not known a lot about Kelli other than she grew up kind of in a small town in Oklahoma, and how that just shaped her. But yeah.
Well, we can tell who the extrovert is in that family. So
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That was great, though.
Jay's a riot, and always fun. Like it's hard to spend a small amount of time with the Bakers. We always go long.
keeps
so.
going. Well,
Yeah.
I liked what he said too about like just kind of not really have any regrets, because if all the things didn't happen, then he wouldn't have what he has now. So I get that too. So,
It may not be the way I pictured it, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll see y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening and being a part of a community who cares. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Thanks for listening.